Alright guys, so I'm back here with the first video in the series of this Greco recording guitar that I'm going to give a proper setup and make sure that I've done everything I can to make it play great. And as I said in the previous video, I haven't actually played this guitar yet. I bought it back in November last year, and when I got it, it was missing a couple of strings, and at the time I didn't have the time to change it out and play it, and I didn't want to waste a new set of strings to just hear how it sounds. So I just put it in my living room and just made it get used to the temperature here, and that making it easier for me to get to work on it. So this is part 1 of the video series, and there's going to be a lot of parts in this because this is a very, very good example of a guitar that needs a lot of care and a lot of time and work put into it, and I really love this kind of work. So I thought for a lot of you out there who's interested in this and maybe want to do something like this in the future, this could be quite helpful. Today in this video I want to talk a little about preparation in terms of a fret level, because I want to go over all the frets right here to make sure that all the frets are level, and to do that we're going to need some special tools, and I'm going to show them to you in a minute. I just want to explain that it's really important in a good setup that if you know that your frets are level, then you'll be 100% sure that the guitar is going to play great, and it's going to be easy to play because you don't have any high frets or high spots in anywhere that's going to cause a lot of your strings to buzz, for example. By leveling out the frets on the guitar here is just going to ensure that you won't get any buzz, and your notes and your bends and your slides, whatever, is going to play cleanly and nicely throughout the whole fretboard. And especially if you're a lead guitarist and you don't play chords, both open and bar chords that often, it's a key important that your frets down here from the 12th fret and down, for example, are as level as can be, because if not and you have high spots, this is going to impact the way that you're going to play lead. Because if you have high frets and notes are buzzing or fretting out when you're bending your guitar, that's not ideal, at least not for a lead guitar player. If you're a rhythm player, you want to play chords up here, that's just great. Then you can get away with uneven frets. But generally, on all guitars that I work on, I go through the frets and make sure that they're all level. It's just going to make the setup part and the rest of the adjustments so much easier. So, in preparation for a fret level, there's a couple of things that we have to take into account, and the first of these things are tools. We're going to need some luthier tools, special design tools for this kind of job. And I'm going to show a couple of the tools that I find basic to do this. And I think it would be a good investment to go out and buy these tools. At least those tools have made my adjustments and my work on the guitars that I do a lot easier. And I know that they're good tools, and I know that they're going to give me a great guitar when I'm done. So I'm glad that I went out and invested. It's better to invest in some proper tools at once instead of going out and buying some bad tools, or maybe not, maybe cheap tools, and then you're going to get an unclear read of the fretboard for example, something like that. So just go out, look for some proper tools, and just do the investment at once, because then you're going to have great tools and you won't have to think about it further along the way. So let's talk about the tools now. There are a couple of tools that I use for checking or preparing for a fret level. And the very first thing that I like to do is that I like to take this, and this is a notch straight edge. And this particular one, it says G&W, and the company is Spanish, I believe, and it's called Guitars and Wood. You can find them on Amazon, and they also have their own webpage, guitarsandwood.com, I think. And this notch straight edge, it has two sides, one which is 24.75 inch, and another side which it's 25.50 inch. And that's corresponding to the scales of the guitars. So one side is Fender and one side is Gibson Epiphone, and like that. And the first thing that I do is that I check for the straightness of the neck itself, because when you're preparing for a fret level, you have to make sure that the neck you're working on is 100% straight, or at least as straight as it can be. Because if you have a neck that's not straight and you go ahead and level the frets, then you'll end up with, for example, if the fretboard has a bow in it and you don't straighten that bow out, then at that spot where the bow is, those frets are going to be lower, or in order to get to those frets when leveling the rest of the frets, you have to go extremely low and take off too much material, and we basically don't want that. So that's why we have to make sure that the straightness of the neck is as close as can be, and that's why I use this straight edge. So I'm going to find out what fits on this one, and on this one it's the 24.75 inch. So this is going to fit Gibsons and Epiphones and some other Les Paul copies out there. So I'm basically just going to put it on the fretboard here, and I'm going to sit down here so I can see what I have going on. And right now I can see that I actually have to take out a little relief in the fretboard here, because the straight edge is actually rocking. So I have to go in with a Truss Rod key or an Allen key up here, and basically just take some of that relief out. And remember, when you're doing Truss Rod adjustments, you have to go up to the headstock right up here, and the way you're going to do this is that you're standing at the top of the headstock, and when you're inserting the Allen key, you have to remember that righty tighty, lefty loosey. So if you turn it right, you're going to tighten the truss rod, making it straighter, and if you're going to loosen the truss rod by turning it left, you're going to give it more relief. So that's very important, and that's what I'm going to do. And sometimes when doing these truss rod adjustments, the neck has to settle maybe a small period of time, and on other it's going to take a couple of hours. It all depends on the guitar, but using the nut straight edge, you're going to see that if it changes quickly, you'll see it right away. So you just have to take that into consideration. And doing the truss rod adjustment yourself, just make sure that you don't over tighten the truss rod, because that will cause damage to your fretboard and the guitar. You only have to do a quarter or half a turn at maximum, and then just go back and check with the straight edge where it's at. So just take it slow, and every guitarist should be able to do this. It's not rocket science at all. You just have to do it with care and with patience, and just don't do this if you're in a hurry. Take your time and make a good cup of coffee, and then just dig into this. So that's what I'm going to do for the fretboard. I'm going to take a little of the relief out and make sure that it's flat, so that I can work on it when I'm going to level it. When I've done that, when I've made sure that the fretboard is straight, or as straight as can be, I'm going to go over the frets with this fret rocker here, also from Guitars and Wood. And this tool is really handy because you take this tool and you put it over 3 frets. Let me just zoom in here so you can see what I'm talking about. As you can see here, I'll be taking the fret rocker and putting it over 3 frets, and then I'll check for any high spots here. You can't really see that because of my hand, but let me try and see if I can get a better picture of this. Just a minute here. Alright, I'm just going to take the tripod down here so you can see what I'm doing. So, right here, I'll place the fret rocker on 3 frets down here. And I'm just going to check if I have any rocking anywhere. And I don't. Then I move along, and on this fret I have a little bit of rocking here on the whole fret. So I would use the fret rocker to go down the neck and just check for how many high frets I actually have here. And remember, you're only going to do 3 frets at a time. So up here you're going to put it on the first 3 frets. And when you've checked yours, you're going to move the fret rocker 1 fret down over the next 3, and so on. So you're checking 3 frets, but you're only moving down 1 fret. That's important. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check the like that. I'm just going to check the frets, and when I've checked them, I'm going to determine how many high frets I actually have, and from there I'm going to determine if I have to do a whole fret level, or I'm just going to do a spot level. And I'll show you the level process too. That's the next chapter in this video series. So I'm going to show you that. Another thing, if this guitar had strings on it, and I was going to work on it too, I would collect some measurements before I went ahead and took the strings off. And the measurements that I would have collected, let's say if this was a customer's guitar that I was working on, and he said, you have to level the frets, but I really like the action. And he liked an action that was, let's say, 1.8 on the bass side and 1.6 on the treble side. Then I would take that measurement and write them down, so I have them when I'm finished with the setup and I have to set the string height, because I know that's what the customer likes. And it could be something like the pickup height too, and the height of the nut, if you're going to adjust that. So collecting these measurements is just basically going to make it easier for you in the end. Also to see if there's been any change, given that you've leveled the fretboards, then maybe the strings are now sitting too high because you've taken some of the material off the fretboard, so you have to cut down the nut slots a little bit, and you have to lower the action, for example. So these things are just guidelines by taking those measurements. It's just going to make it easier for you when you have to go back, because you remember what the customer liked or what the specs were before you went ahead and adjusted. So just take a little bit of paper and a pen and just write it down. That's basically what I do when the guitar comes in with strings on. Another thing to check could be the relief in the neck with the strings on. It could be that with the strings on at tension, at pitch, the relief in the neck would be, let's say, 0.004. Let's see. No, it could be 0.010 inches for this fretboard. Then I would write that down and just keep that, because I know if the guitar is playing great with that amount of relief in the neck, then it would probably do the same thing when I've adjusted it and I have to go back and set the relief with the strings on. So by collecting those measurements, it's just going to make it easier for me when I have to set it up, or for you when you have to set it up after adjusting it. So just a little trick there. And when I go to remove the strings, the old strings, I'm not just going to cut them halfway and just throw them away. I'm going to take them off and just actually put them aside so I can use them later, because obviously I'm going to put on a fresh new set of strings when I'm done. But when I've adjusted the truss rod and leveled the frets, I'm going to put on the old strings, and I'm going to set the intonation, I'm going to set the neck relief, and I'm going to cut the nut slots to make that work with the adjustments that I've made from leveling the frets, for example. When all those adjustments are made and I'm happy and the guitar is playing great, then I'm going to take up the old strings, cut them up, throw them away, put on a fresh new set of strings. So the customer's happy, and I only have to do a little bit of setting the intonation properly when the new string's on. So the old strings is just going to help me get the measurements down that I want after I've adjusted the whole thing. So another little trick to keep in mind, so you don't have to go through one fresh set of strings and then take that off, throw it away because it's been bent and tightened up, tightened down, pulled off, whatever. So you're not going to waste a set of strings if you look at it that way. So yeah, and basically from there is just prepare the tools that you're going to need for the fret job. And in the next chapter I'm going to show you the files and the other techniques that I use for leveling out the frets here. But right now I've just covered the basics in preparing for a fret level, and the most important factors to keep in mind. So just to recap this, when you're preparing for a fret level, you have to make sure that the neck you're working on is straight. And you're going to make sure by using the not straight edge here, you're going to put it on the frets, and you're going to read the fretboard by looking at, when you're placing the not straight edge on the fretboard, you're going to look for any places where you see light coming through, or even if the not straight edge is rocking. So you have to read the frets and see if you have any places on the fretboard where you see light coming through. And from there you're just going to determine if you have to tighten or loosen the truss rod to make the neck or fretboard flat so you can work properly on it. And as I said, truss rod adjustments are something you should be able to do yourself. Some people say stay away from it, it's hard work, but if you take it slow and go carefully, then you can and will be able to do this yourself. You just have to make sure, as I said, that when you're going to do the adjustment, you have to place yourself at the headstock, insert the Allen key, and remember righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So if you turn it left, you're going to loosen it. If you turn it right, you're going to tighten it. And you only have to do about a quarter to a half turn as a maximum, and then let the neck settle for 5 to 10 minutes. Go back, put on the not straight edge, and see what has changed. And if it still needs a little bit more relief, or have to take out some relief, then quarter turn, half turn again, let it settle for 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, go back and check where you're at. Don't overturn or over tighten the truss rod, because that's going to ruin your neck, and that's basically not what you want. So just take your time and do it properly the first time around. Don't stress about this. So right now I'm just going to adjust the truss rod so I can make it level, and I'm going to check the high frets, and then I'll be back at some point with the next chapter, the actual fret level itself. So this is it for now. If you have any questions or would like advice on anything, then just leave a comment down below, and I'll be happy to help you out. So I'll see you in the next couple of days when I get the fret level underway, and you'll see how I go about doing it. So this is it for now, guys. Have a great night. I'm going to see you soon. Bye now.